It is now 8:30 and good Thursday morning. Welcome to the WLBB Community Voice program here on Newstalk 1330, FM 106.3, also streaming live online at newstalk1330.com. 2 more days left for early voting in Haralson County, Carroll County too, of course, but this morning we'll be talking about Haralson County. Where among the handful of races on ballots this year, Haralson County is for Haralson County Chairman. We're going to be speaking with the challenger to the incumbent this morning. His name is Brian Prince. Brian, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for tuning in. Where are you this morning as we talk to you on the phone?
Say again, sir?
I said, where are you this morning as we talk to you on the phone?
I am on a job site in Cedartown, Georgia.
Well, we appreciate you working out the time and hopefully hunkering down a little bit to talk to us this morning. Give us your background, Brian. Give us your background, maybe your resume, how long you've been in Haralson County, your interests, your family, all that good stuff.
I'm 40 years old. I'm from Buchanan, Georgia. I've lived in the Buchanan area since 1988. My grandparents have lived in Haralson County since the late 60s. So pretty much born and raised here, but we didn't move here until the mid to late 80s. I'm married to Amanda King Prince from Felton. We have 3 kids, 19 years old, 7 years old, and 1 year old. My resume, I am currently a business owner. I own and maintain a property maintenance and management company. We oversee multi-million-dollar investments and make sure that everything stays on track, stays on budget, and everything gets done in a timely manner. I have crews that work for me, and I basically make sure everything works how it should on the business side.
How does that transfer over to being chairman? And do you have to quit that position to be chairman in Haralson County?
Sir?
Do you have to quit your profession to be the chairman in Haralson County?
Not necessarily quit. My position is one that can be managed from a phone call basis or an email basis, so my business can still fully operate and maintain itself, and I can dedicate myself towards the chairman position as needed and put all of my efforts into that. As far as benefits, like I said, I've been in business now for right at a decade. We're a family-owned business, but we are in business, and I'm always in contact with different investors, different companies, and I think just the experience of being in business applies to the chairman position because the county needs to be ran exactly like a business. So I think you can just take some business sense and apply it to the county.
Brian Prince is our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. He's challenging the incumbent for Haralson County Commission Chair. Broadband service in Haralson County, there was obviously it's been an issue for several years, but I guess with everybody staying at home and schools being out, it was really brought to the forefront. Saw how bad it is not to have it there. What do you know about Haralson County's efforts, and what can the county do to bring broadband to every resident in Haralson County?
I know that everybody goes back to the grant that was denied, shot down, whatever the situation may be. The county should have been acting long before that grant to try to put something in place. Yes, it's not our business to provide the internet to every home, but it's our business to provide the avenues and the resources for the internet to be accessible by anyone in the county that needs it. So if we have to revisit the grants or we have to look at another way to make this happen, the broadband deals, the satellite internets and everything else, yes, we have them. They work. But for a lot of the folks that need it, they can't afford it. So moving forward, if we can't get a wired internet structure, we need to look at some way we can help our residents and subsidize the cost of the installs for this broadband and this satellite internet technology that we do have available.
There could be any number of reasons why a business initially interested in Haralson County changes their mind and maybe doesn't set up shop in Haralson County, but do you think the lack of consistent broadband definitely hurts in that?
I think the lack of consistent broadband hurts. Also in areas, the water capabilities and the ability to provide a business with adequate water hurts as well. there's studies going back to 2006 where it was made that around Buchanan they couldn't seek any new developments in the industrial park because they didn't have adequate water or sewer. And that's something that moving forward needs to be taken care of immediately instead of waiting another 10 to 15 years.
Well, how do you do that? Where do you find water? Where do you find reservoir space? Or, I mean, do you work with other counties? Do you work across Alabama to get water to Haralson County?
I think it's far past time that the county tries to continue buying water from other counties and other states. And yes, we need water, but and water's a big deal. But we need to find a plan here within the county where we can develop a watershed system, a reservoir system, in some way, shape, or form, to where we have our own water dependency and we don't rely on other places to provide us with water, especially when it flows out of the county and we're buying it back from other counties across the state line. I have researched several ideas and come up with several proposals that I'm working on putting out to the public, and it would be done with all public involvement. You have to satisfy property owners and make sure everybody's happy. But they're all plans that could work.
You're not comfortable presenting them at this point?
One proposal I had, it got some good reviews. Some of it I did get a little bit. I haven't spoken with property owners in an attempt to satisfy them, but that's all moving forward. But just a proposal was an expansion of the lake at the VFW Park in Buchanan off Highway 120. A 120-acre expansion of that lake at an average depth of 8 foot would net, just on the expansion side, around 300 million gallons of water when it was at full capacity. And if you could do something like that and satisfy your property owners, satisfy the county, and make something like that work, it opens the door for many avenues. Water dependence on the east side of the county. The northeast corner of the county always has water pressure problems, water delivery problems. I've taken numerous complaints from the citizens up there about finding a resolution to fix their water issues. And something like this would benefit the east side of the county in the future of being able to provide more water through that avenue. Like I said, it's just a proposal. There's lots of research to be done there, but I think that's the easiest avenue if we can satisfy everyone and try that route.
Time right now is 8:38. Our guest is Brian Prince. He's a candidate for Haralson County Commission Chairman. Another issue that's, I guess, been more recent, the rumor of a potential landfill coming to Haralson County, that a gentleman and his investment group want to develop a landfill eventually. I think it's been verified that he does want to do an industrial park and looking at Haralson County as an option, but there's also speculation that he could want to do a landfill there as well. What are your feelings on that? What do you know for sure?
What I know from looking into it is, yes, he is proposing up to a 300-acre landfill on site. I am 100% against any landfill development in the county. I'm not even certain that we need to be looking to develop an industrial park right there at this point, when we have a numerous amount of vacant buildings that we need to try to develop something into first. Going back to the landfill proposal and everything that they're putting out there, through research, we found that the current owner of the land who purchased it in 2018 has ties to waste companies. So they've already got their foot in the door by purchasing the land. And me being in business, I don't take on big projects without letting somebody know. So, I don't, if I'm taking on $1 million investments and going to do something and move a lot of money around, I don't take it on without putting out a plan and getting some feedback from it, instead of just popping up on day one and saying, this is what we're going to do.
Maybe separating ourselves from the landfill story. When is it okay to tell a property owner that they can't do what they want to with their property? How would you determine that you were going to vote against it in a meeting?
Well, I'm all for property owners and property owners' rights. I believe that if you own the property, you can do what you need within reason to your property, whether it's improvements or changes or whatever. I support property owners very much. when it's not beneficial to the environment, to the ecosystem, air quality, when hazardous stuff comes into play, that's when I think it needs to be stepped in and said, this can't happen. You need to find another avenue, find another way to develop your property. If you look in Cedartown and Polk County at what they call Trash Mountain, beautiful community. They started allowing numerous amounts of solid waste to come in, and the residents around the area are devastated. They don't like it. And I drive by it just about daily, and it's an eyesore.
Brian Prince, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. Before we do take our first break, Brian, you're 40 years old, and this time, 2020, you decided to run for commission chairman. What is it about this time? Why is this the time for you to do this? Was there something that happened that motivated you, that you had big interest in?
The only motivation is to try to bring about some change and some positive growth within the county, to work aggressively towards seeing some things change and some progression in the county. Because I have young kids, we're here, we're established in Haralson County. I'm not going anywhere, and I want to see some better things around here for my kids, for everyone's kids and grandkids that calls Haralson County home. That's the only motivation I have. What
district do you live in, Brian?
I live in District 3.
And who's that? Is that Buddy? Is that the Buddy and Daniel race?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the Buddy and Daniel race.
I got you. Time right now is 8:42. We're going to take our first break and come back and continue our conversation with Brian Prince. He is a candidate for Haralson County Commission Chairman. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System, Oak Mountain Academy, here on Newstalk 1330, FM 106.3, and streaming live online at newstalk1330.com.
As a graduate of Oak Mountain Academy, I've found that my experience on the mountain prepared me beyond all expectations. As a junior at Auburn University, I approached my studies with great confidence thanks to what I learned at OMA. When I think back on my time on the mountain, I think of my teachers. Their genuine love and concern for me as a student was always evident, and now, as an adult, I still foster those relationships. I'm Carly Robinson, an Oak Mountain Academy alum. Visit oakmountain.us to see how you can offer your child an amazing opportunity to be a warrior.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong. That's tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong.
.843. Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program here on Newstalk 1330, FM 106.3. I'm your host, Colin Worthington. Our guest is Brian Prince. He's a candidate for Haralson County Commission Chairman. Before we went to our break, I was asking Brian about his motivation for seeking out this position at this time in the year 2020. I guess when you decided to qualify, when you qualified, we definitely was not expecting COVID-19 to be an issue. I imagine that's hampered your campaigning a little bit.
It has hampered it a lot, actually. Before all this, in the research phases, before qualifications, I drew out a map. I divided the county into 4 sections, and I had a plan to knock on every door in the county and introduce myself to people who don't know me. Naturally, with COVID-19 and everything, I had to step back from that just because I don't want to take every precaution necessary to not try to spread any kind of virus or disease or anything like that. So it's hampered it, but we've been trying to do online information and everything as best we can.
In your conversations online and social media, what are you hearing are the biggest concerns of residents?
Biggest concerns that I hear are water, internet. Like I said, with everything in the schools being shut down, internet's a major concern. We have families that don't have internet. In order to turn in school assignments, they're having to go sit and use Wi-Fi from a grocery store parking lot or a library parking lot or something like that, just so they can get schoolwork turned in. And we have a lot of employees who've been working from home doing the same thing just to try to make their stuff work. So internet, water, of course, you always hear about taxes. Taxes are always a topic. Everybody wants lower taxes. So that's always what you hear about. And roads.
You mentioned taxes, special purpose local option sales tax approved by voters most recently in Haralson County. Are you in favor of generating revenue from a special purpose local option sales tax, the 1 cent or 1%?
I'm not against any SPLOST funds. I'm not against them at all. What I am against is poorly managed SPLOST funds. 2014, they passed the SPLOST. It was approved by the voters of projects totaling $21 million for the county. And there's recreation facilities on there that was earmarked for almost $1 million. And that project has been going on for over a decade and is still unfinished. And they're currently telling us that in the new SPLOST, if it's approved, they have $1 million set aside to finish that project finally. And it's basically like kicking the can down the road. We're going to finish it one day. Well, I think 12, 13 years is long enough for a project. These things need to be done in a timely manner, and the public needs to know where their money's going. The last figures that I saw were that the SPLOST funds were generated and paid in by about 65% of county residents. That's 35% of people from outside the county coming here to spend money. And I think we need to work on some ways to generate revenue to draw more than 35% into the county. We have to find something if we're going to continue SPLOST funds and projects for the county.
There was a project that you felt like was urgent. Would you ever be in favor of bonding that money so that you get that money ahead of the time it's collected, knowing that you'd have to pay big interest?
Not necessarily. I think that most of these, it would have to be some kind of detrimental project to the advancement of the county to even consider that. But I'm not a fan of doing anything that has a high interest return and costs you a lot more money in the end.
So you're in favor.
Most of these projects are laid out where you can pay for them over time.
You're in favor of the transportation tax too, then?
The transportation tax, as long as it's used properly, like I said, as long as all these taxes are used properly and the numbers are put out there so the public can see where the money's spent. That's the thing, is that they don't know. Most other places in bigger cities, they put up signs saying SPLOST money's working here, or it's working here and it's funding this project. Most people in the county have no idea. They just know they're paying 8% sales tax when they go to the store, and they don't know what the money's being used for.
Brian Prince, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. Time right now is 8:48. Brian is a candidate for Haralson County Commission Chairman. Tell me some legitimate untapped opportunities for business in Haralson County.
I think business opportunities, I think we need to work pretty aggressively to generate some business growth from Walmart in Bremen on Highway 27 down to the Carroll County line. Haralson County residents have sat by for years and watched new development after new development be opened just across the line in Carroll County. They're getting the draw there. Carroll County's got everything, but when you get to the Haralson County line, you've got nothing but a Walmart. I think we need to work there because the interstate's there. People are getting off the interstate, and if they're willing to get off the interstate and travel a half a mile to a business or establishment, they'll drive another quarter mile or so if we've got something that attracts them. And I think that we need to work hand in hand. If we have to work with the Development Authority, which we do, the Chamber of Commerce, and even the City of Bremen needs to be involved. And we need to figure out a way to get some business growth on that corridor and get something happening as soon as possible.
Is there a point that there'd be too much business growth for Haralson County? What's the feeling on bringing in outside individuals to open up new business and to start new businesses? How Haralson County, is their primary interest to remain rural?
I have no desire to see anything in Haralson County grow to the likes of Carroll County, Carrollton area, the Hiram areas, the Douglasville areas. I don't want to see big city growth, and I don't want to see overgrowth. But what we need is some meaningful stuff that can come in and establish and be here for years to come. I don't need to see Highway 27 covered with businesses all the way across the county. Just a little bit extra than what we have now. Something that our residents have and we know we've got, and it draws people, especially if we're going to continue SPLOST money. It draws people from other counties here. So we are using the phrase of the SPLOST is paid by others because they're coming here to spend their money. And I think we need to work on some kind of incentives or initiatives to develop some more growth in town areas, downtown Buchanan on the square. Find some more nice little stores that want to establish there and promote local business and promote spending money here at home and do it and go that route.
Before we take our final break here, what do you see as the major roles of chairman in Haralson County? What should constituents know is your role as a chairman?
Basically overseeing, called CEO of the county. So you're overseeing some county operations, but at the same time, you're trying to make sure everything's managed properly. You're trying to make sure that everything's done in accordance to rules and guidelines that are set forth, but you don't want to step on anybody's toes. You don't want to be a micromanager. You want to entrust your department heads and all the other officials that are in position in the county to maintain and manage their spot and report back to you when there's any problems. I think the chairman should be proactive in informing the public on things that are going on and not reactive and trying to cover tracks and stuff after the fact. I think information to the public is a big deal, and I think the chairman should be charged with that. Moving forward, if I'm elected, I would like to put out a monthly newsletter broken down by district to let everybody in the county know what's on the agenda for their district and what's been completed, and that way they're informed and they know.
We're going to take our final break right now, Brian. Time is 8:52. We'll come back and wrap up our conversation with Brian Prince, candidate for Haralson County Commission Chairman. We'll have about 8 minutes left. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy here on Newstalk 1330 FM 106.3.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. # We Are Tanner Strong. That's tanner.org. # We Are Tanner Strong.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our daily schedule includes convocation, prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance. By doing so, we build a family-like community where all students grow and flourish and personal faith is encouraged. Through community service and a historical approach to biblical study, our students are taught the value of the warrior way, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Oak Mountain Academy. We are a family creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
Final segment of the Thursday WLBB Community Voice program here on Newstalk 1330 FM 106.3, streaming live online at newstalk1330.com. I'm Colin Worthington, and my guest this morning is Brian Prince. He's a candidate for Haralson County Commission Chairman. Brian, if you are elected as Haralson County's chairman next year, it'll be a new chairman, obviously, but either way, there's going to be a brand new sheriff for Haralson County as well. What are those first conversations going to be like with you and the new sheriff? What questions are you going to want answered? What information do you want to share with the new sheriff? I know all 5 candidates, not on an extreme personal level, but I know them. I know of their plans moving forward. I think that we're going to get a great new sheriff. Conversations between chairman and sheriff. I want to know how aggressive they're going to be on our drug problem. And as I've said before, our drug problem, it shouldn't be just tasked on the sheriff's department's shoulders. So relaying it to them and relaying it to the public that it's time for the public to say something and work with the sheriff's department and let them know where our drug houses and stuff are. But as far as working relationship with the sheriff, I can work with anyone, and conversations with them will be all about business and what they plan to do for the county. They all have great plans. So like I said, I think moving forward, we've got a great shot at some really good advancement coming up. I think it's unfair to ask somebody a year ahead of time, would you raise the millage rate on the budget next year? What would be your process? When would you determine that it's okay to raise the millage rate? Something major would have to happen. I mean, even with all this COVID-19 stuff, and if there's a budget shortfall, it would have to be extreme. I would rather
make budget cuts and trim the fat from the budget instead of raising the millage rate. The millage rate's pretty set where it's at right now, and I don't see any reason to raise it. Like I said, unless there's just some kind of massive budget shortfall or some kind of expense we did not see coming that's an emergency expense. But again, I think with time and research, there's a way to take care of all that without raising millage rate, because everybody knows what happens when the millage rate goes up.
Did you are you aware of anything that you think is fat in the current budget? Or yeah, I think they have proposed it. It's out there. So
the current budget I haven't reviewed for moving forward for next year. I haven't reviewed it in full yet. But there's always a little bit of fat to be trimmed on one. I'm sure. I know that it has been trimmed before and it has been reduced, but different sets of eyes can find different things in the budget. You don't have to cut pay, you don't have to cut salary, you don't have to cut jobs, but there's other avenues that can be taken.
For good,
they just take some research on them.
For good or bad, people do associate us with the crowd we hang and the people we know. Who are some of your mentors? You've been in Buchanan since the 80s. Who are some of your mentors? Who are the people you go to for guidance, for information? If you have a major question, who do you turn to trust with that information?
For the most part of my life, my grandparents and my parents have been my major mentors. I go to them with every decision I have to make. And try to get their input and information. As far as other people, Brandon Heath, current magistrate judge, I've known him for years. I take his information on a friendly basis. I have been in front of him in the courtroom, and in the courtroom it's all business. Everybody knows that. But I consider him a great friend and a mentor of mine. He's always given me good advice, and other than that, it's the investors that I work with on a daily basis. They have pretty much helped lead me into some decision making, and I appreciate everybody for that.
I'm going to give you about a minute here. If I see you on Monday, I'm in Buchanan. I haven't cast my ballot yet. Don't know which of the two gentlemen to pick. So I ask you, Brian, why should I vote for you on Tuesday?
I think you should cast your vote for me because I'm young. I've got my whole future ahead of me, and I am deeply concerned with the advancements of Haralson County. And I'm not doing this for any agenda. I'm doing this for the betterment of everyone in the county. And if you are tired of seeing the good old boy system and that way of life functioning on a daily basis, I ask that you vote for me so we can put an end to it and get back to a normal operation of doing business as a business and make this county greater and greater day by day.
Brian Prince, candidate for Haralson County Commission Chairman, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. Brian, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, sir.
And now you get to go back to work.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
It's always fun.
Good deal. Again, thanks, Brian. And thank you to our listeners this morning who are tuning in on the Newstalk1330.com website. We're going to post this up on our podcast section on the Newstalk1330.com website later on, actually in just a few minutes. Give me till 9:05, so you missed any of it. You can go back and listen to that program in its entirety. Also going to post it to the Newstalk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. We'll have a picture of Brian up there so you recognize him. You'll be able to access that about later on this morning. Want to remind you, Election Day on Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Once the polls close, we're going to start our live broadcasts. I'll be in the Carroll County Elections Office. Seth Kane will be broadcasting from the Haralson County Elections Office. And we'll give you all the updates and information from that day of all the elections as the numbers roll in. So we hope you'll tune in to Newstalk 1330 FM 106.3 or KISS 102.7 or WKNG King Country, the FM band 93.7. Again, that's Tuesday beginning at 7 o'clock. Time right now is 8:59. Stay tuned for national headlines, followed by your local news, and then Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity on the air here on Newstalk 1330 FM 106.3. Have a great Thursday.